So people don't understand climate change. They still think it's a debate. Our news media has failed to inform the people about many things, myriad things, climate change being one of them. In fact, CNN President Jeff Zucker actually even admitted it. He said this was in 2 years ago. He said, "We haven't figured out how to engage the audience in that story in a meaningful way." That meaning climate change. We haven't figured out how to engage the audience in that story in a meaningful way. When we do those stories, he said, do. When we do those stories, there does tend to be a tremendous amount of lack of interest on the audience's part, which is just a weird way to say it anyway. There's a tremendous amount of lack of interest. It's like there's a tremendous amount of nothing there. Look at all the nothing. There's buckets and buckets of nothing. So that's a weird way to say it. And I don't know, maybe, by the way, we haven't figured out how to engage the audience in that story in a meaningful way. Hey, you know, news is in the title of your company, right? You know that? And you just said that out loud. You do know you just said that. Climate change, the thing facing the earth. CNN, one of the N stands for news. I know that. The other N stands for not. So he said, we can't get him to engage. Why do you think you can't get him to engage? Why is it? Because CNN, along with a lot of the rest of the mainstream news media, presents climate change like this. Like it's a debate. They'll bring on somebody like S.E. Cupp, right? So there she is debating him about climate change. And that's Bill Nye. So they all often do this. They'll bring on somebody who doesn't accept science, and they'll bring on Bill Nye, the science guy. He's got science right in his fucking name. And then they'll present it. You see right there, it says shorter, warmer winters. New climate change warning. So they're debating it. It's not a debate. Climate change is only a debate on corporate news, which gets their money from fossil fuel industries. You couldn't. That's how they go. Oh, she says it's not. He says it is. Is there really a thing called climate change? I guess we'll never know, because it's still a debate. You couldn't report the sports that way. You couldn't say, "Hey, the Cubs played the Dodgers yesterday. Dodgers said they won 4-3. Cubs said they won 4-3. Who really won? I guess we'll never know." But thanks for the debate. So, Media Matters did a little study. They came out with a study that said that CNN actually runs way more commercials for fossil fuel industries than they do spend time covering climate change. Isn't that interesting? So they're giving you commercials for oil companies and fracking, and not giving you any coverage on the effects of those things. Doesn't kind of sounds like the opposite of a news organization, doesn't it? Kind of sounds like a PR firm for oil companies. That's what it sounds like. That's what CNN pretty much is. Jeff Zucker kind of admitted it.
And we should note this year has been one of the worst years for global warming.
Well,
global temperatures have gone up more than people projected, and a lot of scientists are saying that they think that global warming is going to hit us even harder than we thought it would have.
Yes. Well, Media Matters actually makes that point, Robert. They say that earlier this year, in 2015, it was announced that was the hottest year on record. And according to Media Matters, you weren't likely to see much coverage of that announcement on CNN. In fact, you were more likely to see an ad for a fossil fuel industry. So they broke it down, and they found out that the report, which was released on Monday, Media Matters, it looked at CNN's coverage in the 1 week periods following the news that 2015 set the record for the world's hottest year. And they found that February 2016 was the hottest February in 137 years of record keeping. Wow. It also found that CNN spent nearly 5 times as much time airing fossil fuel industry ads in those 2 week-long periods than it did airing coverage of climate change and the recent records. The network spent 23.5 minutes on ads from the American. Here they have like a graph. So this is from Media Matters graph. You see, it says they spent 23.5 minutes on ads from the American Petroleum Institute, compared to just 5 minutes spent on news coverage of climate change. Isn't that interesting? So this is the January. That's when came out that 2015 was the hottest year on record. They spent look at this is the minutes they spent covering it. That's how much minutes they spent on giving PR for the people destroying the planet through climate change. Here's when it came out in February. When it turned out that February was the hottest, February 2016 was the hottest February in 137 years of record keeping. Here's how much time they gave to reporting climate change. Here's how much PR they gave to the people creating climate change.
Oh, dear Lord.
See, according to Media Matters, CNN spent less than 1 minute of coverage on January's hottest year announcement. On the announcement that it was it's unbelievable. They spent 1 minute, but it spent 13.5 minutes in the morning, afternoon, and evening airing fossil fuel industry ads. Then, following the February announcement of that hot February, CNN spent 4 minutes on climate change-related coverage and 10 minutes airing fossil fuel ads. Isn't that something? Now, what's sad about this, Robert, is that CNN is too stupid to have actually come up with a scheme to do this. I'm sure it just happened as a happy accident because, as we all know, CNN is the Forrest Gump of broadcast journalism. Yeah, this isn't nearly as bad, though, as the time they kept running ads for the Iraq War Experience at Universal Studios, which turned out just to be the Iraq War. It's unbelievable. It's really hard to get people engaged in this topic. Hey, if that's all you're concerned about is getting an audience, why don't you just show cockfights? They'll be engaged. It's unbelievable. So they show the PR for it. The news agency shows the PR for the people doing the climate change polluting, but they don't actually cover the climate change polluting. Isn't that interesting? It's kind of like back in the early 80s when the news wasn't covering AIDS, but they were running commercials for Plato Resort.
Plato's Retreat.
Retreat, whatever the hell. Nobody even knows what that is anyway. Plato's Retreat used to be a swingers club.
Yeah.
Plato. They used to mention it late night on Johnny Carson. Sometimes people go, whoa, talking about swinging. So there you go. What's the influence of money in the news? There's the influence of money in the news, right there.
God.
There you go. And by the way, the money that the fossil fuel industries give to political candidates take that money and they give it back to the news companies as in the form of buying advertising, which is really just PR. So the news company becomes a PR wing of the fossil fuel industry. That's exactly what's happening. So that's the yet again, another corrosive effect of money in politics.
Yeah, when Jeff Zucker says that, it's really infuriating to me because the truth of the matter is that a good news company would have the same if probably better viewership. They would get ad revenue, period. Okay, this is a situation where the fossil fuel companies clearly came and said, we're going to give this to you even though we don't even think your ratings are that great.
Right.
But we're going to make sure we're giving this to you preemptively to make sure you don't report on the things that we don't want you to report on.
Well, this is very, we talk about this in the book, Your Country's Just Not That Into You, where we say that a lot of the times when they're buying ads on news shows, like when Boeing buys ads on Meet the Press, I'm not looking to buy a jet. Why would they? Because they're funding the non-investigation. Here's a bunch of money. Please don't investigate us. And guess what? They don't.
And that happened at PBS.
That happens at the EPA. Are you kidding me? They don't investigate. Anyway,
Does the EPA have commercials? Because
No,
that would be really shitty.
What I'm saying is,
A big jet
they
with
act like a PR wing for the fossil fuel industry also. They came out with their fracking report, and the headline was, Fracking doesn't cause massive water pollution. It was something, I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like that. Instead of saying, it's been proven it does.
Right.
They said, not massive. So, again, a lot of people accuse them of running PR for the fossil fuel industry, which they were. So...
What?
No, my point was a jet with a big red bow on it makes a great gift for the wife. If you love her, you got to show it.
If it's Christmas.
That's right.
So this is why people get their news from YouTube.